Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. How is everybody today? Oh, my hair's a mess. Ooh, God, what a mess. Um, Thank you for joining me. As always, it's always great to have everybody here. You know, you can leave, if you're watching on YouTube or Getter, you can leave your comments, your questions, and I think you're probably going to have quite a few of them for our guest tonight because this is so different from what we normally do. And I love it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Please like the podcast, appreciate it. The audio is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just look for Mary Walter Radio. And of course, you can always go to YouTube and you can watch past episodes with all of my guests. And sometimes we don't have guests, we have you guys. And you get to leave your comments and questions, and it's a lot of fun. Just a quick reminder, I'm in on Sirius Patriot Channel 125 for David Webb this week. That's 9 a.m. to noon Eastern Time. On Thursday, I'm doing a twofer. I'm in for Rich Zioli on PHT from 3 to 7 Eastern. If you have Newsmax 2, if you have N2, I will be on Todd Starnes' show tomorrow afternoon at 5:15 Eastern Time. And then I'm going to need a break. I have a lot going on. A big shout out, big thank you to EB for doing all of the graphics. As always, he did the graphic for our guest. And also thank you to Zach, who is our number one fan. So he watches all hours of the days and night. Thank you very much, Zach. Let me introduce my guest. This is Lauren Conlin, and I am so excited. Was it Jake who put the two of us in touch? Was that Jake, I think?
No, it was Sal.
That was it, Sal. Yes, Sal put us in touch.
Sal's amazing. He is like my biggest cheerleader. I wish I could do more for him besides give him a shout out, but
that's right. It was Sal. Sorry about that, Sal. I apologize for thinking that it was Jake who had put us together. But yeah, Hermit Sal. He's on X.
Yes.
Hermit Sal. And you can find Lauren on X at Conlin, CONLIN_ Lauren, LAUREN. There's no wacky spelling of her name. Thank God. It's spelled like a normal human being's name. I cannot stand parents who do that to their children. There's something seriously wrong with you. Your kids don't want to be different. Your kids want to be like everybody else. Mm-hmm. So let me just go into a little bit about what Lauren does. Lauren is a podcaster, but she's lucrative as opposed to me. And she focuses on true crime and pop culture. Oh, I'm so excited. You can find, she also writes, in her spare time, because you also have what, 2 kids?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Right. And she's got kids in between all of this. Grunge.com, NikkiSwift.com, RedLibertyMedia.com, and PopStyleTV.com. And if you go to popcrime.tv, you can find out all about her there. And you can also listen to, which one is it? It's the corruption in Tennessee. What happened to Grant Solomon? Oh, I love this stuff.
Yes.
Love it. Also, she has a true crime podcast, the Outlier Podcast. It's pop culture and true crime. And she has covered a lot of high profile celebrity deaths. O.J. Simpson, Aaron Carter, Matthew Perry. She was on Fox News with that. So she's done it all. And I'm so jealous because it's so funny. You you did an interview that I saw and I was like, can we talk about that? And it's such a dumb one. And I know Pete, who watches the podcast, is going to punch out as soon as we start to talk about it. Because the show airs on Monday night, Sunday night, or Monday night. And we would talk. I had a friend who would come on and we'd talk about it on Tuesday. And the guys got all pissy about it. And so we had to stop doing it.
Oh, are you talking about the Housewives?
Yes, the Real Housewives of New Jersey.
So I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you. I am kind of with Pete. I don't watch it. I've actually interviewed a number of the Housewives. I don't think I've sat through a full episode. I'm so sorry. I'm not.
It is so delicious. I'm a big reality TV fan just because I don't have to pay attention when I watch it.
I get that. You can
right,
scroll. I get that. Yeah.
Totally. Like true crime stuff, which I love. I have to pay attention to if I want to figure it out, and you get sucked into it. And I gotta pay attention. Phone's not in my hand, like that kind of stuff. Housewives, I'm like playing a game. I just decompress. Like today, I got off the air and I sat with a cup of coffee and I just sat in bed with the cats with me. And I watched a half an hour of The Real Housewives of New Jersey.
I mean, that sounds heavenly, except for I would pick like a Forensic Files or something like that, or a Dateline. But I mean, that sounds heavenly.
I think I've watched every forensic file that there is out there. I think I've watched every single one of
I
those.
mean, those are, yeah, very addicting.
I like those too. So
Yeah.
one thing we can do during the show is comments. We can bring up comments from the viewers so they can
Mhm.
interact with us. So let's see. Bill is
Mhm.
here. John is here. Hey, this is great. John is new to the podcast. No, I think he's been here once or twice. Is there any hope for us? And if so, what needs to happen? Well, that's political. We're not doing politics tonight, but next week we can do. Oh, yeah, next week we could do politics again.
Hmm.
Paul is here. Now Tax USA, just in time for a B and E to the Mary Walters.
Breaking and entering.
Oh, breaking and entering.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Hermit Sal. Yay, there's Sal.
Ah.
He said I look great. Yeah, my hair, I didn't have time because I've got a crazy schedule.
No, I was saying I have like horrible allergies and I can't wear like mascara on my eyes right now because my allergies are so bad. I hate this season. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I hear you. I do the allergy thing too.
Mhm.
Sal says that's okay. Hi, Lauren. Thanks for the
Mhm.
shout out. Did you hear about the new series Hillbilly Husbands of West Virginia? I
Oh
don't
my
think it's
gosh,
real.
that's crazy. If that's true, that's crazy.
So, before we get into the good stuff, before we dig in here, and please leave your comments, etc. Um, how did you get involved in this? How did you do this? Like, what was your path to this?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like, Mary, I've had a lot of paths and it's
Mm,
all brought me to this place right now, which I am thrilled with what I'm doing. But I was a musical theater major and a journalism and communications minor. And I didn't want to be, I realized halfway through, I didn't want to be a poor actor. I went to school in New York City, so I saw how much it cost. I saw what was going on. And then it's just coincidental. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go into news. So I did a stint, at Fox 5, at CBS 2, and I was really struggling. I loved it, but I had to work like 4 jobs at 23 to pay the rent here. It was insane. Babysitting,
yeah,
waitressing, hostessing, working,
yeah,
at the news. And so I eventually went into digital marketing, which is where I met my husband. And I was able to flex some creative muscles in advertising, do some theater on the side. And then as soon as I had my first child in 2016, I decided to put all that behind and I went into the entertainment field. So my brother and I started a production company. We started freelancing for a bunch of Broadway companies doing their promo videos and everything. And then I went and I met George Whipple from New York One News. He's got the big bushy eyebrows. New Yorkers
yeah.
might know him. I started working for him. And after I got tired of that, I said, you know what? I kind of want to go do my own thing. And I did. And I started an entertainment podcast. And then shortly after that, I started through that. I was contacted by Newsmax when they first were launching their network, met some people. They needed some people to comment on entertainment, did that, ended up getting a job at WBC Radio for a while. And then I realized that I'm better independently. So I've been independent ever since. And I cover, gosh, movie premieres, or I used to do a lot of that, movie premieres, shows, celebrity stuff. But now I'm very much into crime investigating, and as it pertains to celebrities, I'm kind of only interested when a celebrity gets arrested at this point because, right? I mean, like, I don't, I got to the point where I was sick of kissing their butts. I was sick of
Oh my
watching this
God.
movie that nobody asked for. I'm just like, nobody asked for this movie. Why do I have to sit here and promote it for you when you're giving me the bare minimum on these red
Right.
carpets, and half of them don't even talk to you. Not, they don't have to, they're not contracted to, but you're there to promote their movie that's not that good. So, I kind of, it's much more rewarding to cover these cases. And I studied this past summer, I took a deception course. So I've studied deception and criminal profiling, and it's been great. So,
That is fantastic. Good for you. I'm super happy for you,
Thank
finding that
you.
niche. And, we talk about, the theater majors and why are you going to college to get a theater major, that kind of thing. But it's my
Ugh.
passion, which I understand. But I think with the price of college now, I think a lot of parents are saying, that's great, doing summer stock,
Do
during
it on the
the
side is what
weekends.
I would say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, so all of this is totally, like I said, it totally fascinating that you are where you are and you're being successful at it. You're doing it successfully. And your podcast, by the way, is The Outlier,
Mhm.
and it's available on Apple Podcasts. You can catch
It's
it there.
everywhere. Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's just not
Mhm.
just Apple, it's Apple, Spotify,
Yes.
everywhere. So you can catch The Outlier when you
Mhm.
have all these. Let me ask you, true crime right now is really hot, and I think things cycle. I'm old enough to have been around to see, old enough to see, clogs come back again. I remember them the first time around, and now they're
I
back
have
again,
a thing too for
right?
that, okay?
And puffy sleeves, the puffy sleeves from the 80s. Remember,
Yep.
it's all back again, right? All that's back
Mhm.
again. And it was ugly the first time around, and it ain't gonna be better the second. I'm waiting for the big bows for the back for your hair, the big bows and the
Hopefully
big
not.
bows, all that stuff. So it seems to cycle to me. And I think part of it has to do a lot with the political world, if it makes sense. It kind of ties
Mhm.
in. Right now, I was talking today on when I was on Sirius this morning when I was doing a story about how comedy is back. Like,
Mm.
for the longest time, comedy was a no-no because of cancel culture. You couldn't say anything funny because liberals have no sense of humor whatsoever. Don't know if you're a liberal, but you don't sound like one
No,
because
I'm
you laugh. So it's good. You laugh. You seem happy. You don't seem like a miserable
I
blue-haired
do. No,
single woman.
I'm
Yeah. White women, seriously, white single women, young, are the bane of my existence because they're totally messing up the entire country. They're horrible,
it's
miserable
tough.
people.
Mhm.
So, but so they were destroying comedy. They went about and they destroyed comedy, but now comedy is rising from the ashes, and it was led by like the likes of Dave Chappelle, who did a Netflix special, and the story was about how Netflix is really leading the pack in all of this. And Netflix has said, remember when their people said that they were going to, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. They were going to, they were going to quit if had Dave Chappelle on because he made jokes about lesbians and gays and trans people and bi and everything else.
Mhm.
And Netflix had their come to Jesus moment and said, well, then we'll have to fire you, and you can leave and we'll get someone else to do your job. And it
Mhm.
worked. And now comedians have the right to be funny again. And Netflix is pumping out all of these specials, and it makes it easier for comedians because they don't have to get this huge following first, which is hard in clubs because
Right.
clubs are afraid, right? Clubs are afraid of comedy. And you don't have to get a TV show the way Seinfeld came up and he got a TV show like
Right.
Roseanne. That was the path. Now you just go to Netflix. They give you a special. If you're successful, do another one in a little while, right? So oh, there's Pat.
Yeah.
There. Oh,
No, I
okay.
mean, I think, like someone like Matt Rife, the comedian, he actually got his start on TikTok because he couldn't get a Netflix show. But I think so many of us, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, I guess, at this point. But when I saw the roast of Tom Brady, and I heard those jokes, I was like, oh my gosh, are we back? Are we going to be able to
Yes.
actually make fun of people without people getting upset? I was so happy. I couldn't believe what they were saying. I was dying. I was laughing my butt off, but I was thrilled. So,
So
yeah.
along the same lines, though, I think the true crime stories comes and goes. If you notice on TV, we go through a period of time where there's like a ton of detective shows
Yeah.
on, right? They're all detective shows. Then they become like all medical shows, and then we have a lot of comedy shows. And I think you start to see that, and the true crime, I think, is also cyclical as well because, and I think part of the reason that it's so popular right now is people just want something that I can tune out of. I don't have to pay attention to what's going on with the government and the craziness and burning down campuses and the summer of love and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And this, you know what? This is real. This true crime stuff here, this is real. It makes me feel better because no matter how bad my day is, my husband's probably not poisoning my spaghetti. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of an escapism, I think, in a weird way.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally see that. I mean, for me, I enjoy putting puzzles together in that sense, which is why I like working on it. When I watch it, I am fascinated by human behavior, and I think that sometimes my husband's like, aren't you depressed? I mean, I had a day last week where I interviewed the sole survivor of a serial killer. And then after that, I did this. It's insane. And then we're watching a show where, someone's getting, he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, my brain is able to compartmentalize this stuff. And I think when I really pay attention to some of this and I'm invested in it, I think a lot of me wants to believe that some people have humanity when they don't. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to believe I'm interested in hearing more about this case because I
Right.
want to believe that this girl before she died, she felt some kind of hope. She didn't feel that everything was over and this horrible face is the last face she was looking. You know what I mean? Like for
Right.
me, I envision that, and I want to believe that some of these victims had that. And again, just the human behavior aspect of it all. It's truly fascinating and frightening at the same time.
Sure, absolutely. I can see where I would like scare myself to the point where I don't want to leave the house,
Yeah,
which
don't
is
do
why,
that.
yeah, I have to be careful. I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah.
sensitive. I'm very sensitive. So the one of the reasons I wanted to have Lauren on when this all came up, I was in the midst of a Netflix special called Baby Reindeer. All right.
Mm,
And we were at a friend's house in Virginia. We're all sitting around. We're looking for something to watch. They turn on Netflix and we go through it. Nobody can agree on anything. And we watched this one show. It was kind of dumb. It was just like a light, rom-com type movie. And
mhm.
we all knew how it was going to end, but it was funny. And I said, well, that baby reindeer one looked kind of interesting. So we started to watch it. And they were like, this is really dark. This is disgusting. This is da, da, da. I said, but this is real. It says it's based on a true story. This is real.
Mhm.
So my husband and I got sucked into it. So we came home and we watched, I think it's 7 episodes. We've
Yeah.
now watched the whole story. And I didn't realize this is a big hit in England. This baby reindeer story is huge in England.
Mhm.
And in preparation for this, I just finished watching an interview with Piers Morgan with the woman who
I
it was
know.
based on. Did you see that? She looks just like the real
She
character.
looks just like her,
It's
and she's
crazy.
she's clearly just as, mentally ill as we all thought, unfortunately. And I guess she's the only one that can't see it, which is so sad. So,
And she said that I didn't do that. I didn't send him emails. I didn't send him. Do you know how many emails I would have had to send if I sent him 40,000 emails? Like, yes, right? It's
yeah, and
just
it's like, look, I don't think he's making it
crazy.
up at all because of all the other admissions that he told us about himself and his life. So why would he make that up? That's.
Right. And his life was very dark. I mean, he was a very bad decision maker
Yeah.
and very. And one of the reasons I love reality TV is because there are some people out there, like I sometimes wonder why I made certain decisions. I'm like, you idiot, right? And I kick myself, like, why? Why did you think that was a good idea? Radio as a career choice? Seriously? Do you want to eat? And so but then I see things like that and I look at the decisions he's makes and I'm like, okay, I feel great. You know what? People out there are far worse than I am.
Mary,
My
you're
decision's
good,
not so bad.
okay? You're
Not so
good.
bad.
Don't even think twice, please. My goodness.
But you know what I mean? Like I think I take some solace in some of these things where I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, it's one of the like I said, it's one of the reasons I love reality TV. So was this whole and I highly recommend it. It's dark. It's super, super dark and uncomfortable, but it's true. And to Lauren's
yeah.
point, he showed a lot of really dark stuff in his life.
Mm.
And so that's why I kind of believe him. And the guy who plays the main character is the guy this all really happened to.
That freaked me out, I think. I think that was all part of it where I was like, "What? Why would you do this? Like, why would you relive this?" Oh god.
I
Yeah.
saw an interview with him where the one scene I don't want to give anything away with the producer, who he was getting gaslit and drugs and everything.
Mhm.
And when it all went down, and he said it was closed sad, and there was a lot of crying, because I guess this is cathartic for him to get all of this out. And
Oh,
I was just
yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah, I would imagine. I mean, it was I think you may have enjoyed it more than I did. I think, I know no, I really think, like, I am used to the darkness, but I think it was the fact that this guy was playing himself and
yes,
the bad decision after bad decision after bad decision.
yes,
I was like and without giving anything away, I think that if there wasn't the part with his parents and the reconnecting with his parents, I don't think I could have watched it because there was
yeah,
nothing redeeming about, you know what I mean? I like for
right.
Yeah, if I'm gonna watch a show like that, I want it to be a little bit redeeming. So I think if he didn't have that connection with his parents, I'd have been like, I'm good. I'll just stop right here.
Yeah, no, I see it. I understand why my friends, punched out of it in the first episode. They only got
I don't
halfway through. They're
blame
like,
them.
"This
I
is
don't blame
really
them.
dark.
Yeah,
I'm not doing this."
that's
Before we
funny.
move on, let's get some comments here. John says, "Look up or ask about Monfile's case in Green Bay." Do you know anything about that?
I don't know that one. Is it recent or is it?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. I can look it up. Let's see if I've even
You
heard
don't
of
have
it.
to do it, but you could take your time, do it another time.
Oh, okay.
Porchview Farm says, I'm waiting for the West Virginia primary results. I know nothing about the true crime stuff. You are missing it, Porchview. You're missing it. I'm telling you. And we're going to go into the celebrity stuff too, because there was a
Oh,
celebrity. We're going to go into
sure.
some celebrity deaths. John says, hilarious who the beautiful women always think they look bad. Aw, thank you. Ron's here. Gregory's here. The only Mr. Whipple I know is squeezing the Charmin somewhere.
Ew.
Oh, you're too young to remember the commercials. Mr. Charmin, the women in the grocery store would squeeze the Charmin. When I was a little kid, they'd be on TV. It was
No,
black
I
and
know
white.
that from working with
Oh,
him because he brought it up. So yeah, I know
oh,
that's I'm like, what?
but it's a different Mr. Whipple.
Yes, totally
Okay,
different. Oh my
okay,
gosh, totally
okay,
different. Yeah.
okay.
I think only New Yorkers would know the specific George Whipple. But I mean, listen, you could argue that the Trump trial right now is true crime because I
Yes.
mean, I've been sort of I don't want to say I'm checked out of that one, but I do like to live tweet certain trials. That's not one of them. I think it's a waste of my tax money and I'm just really annoyed by the whole thing. So I haven't really reported on that too much.
Listen, if they put that on pay-per-view, I would be sitting there. I weigh 10,000 pounds because I'd be doing nothing but eating popcorn and drinking beer the whole time. I would be
Yeah,
like
no,
you would come in and go, oh my God, my husband would take me out back and just hose me off because I would be so disgusting because I would never leave the TV because I wanted to see Stormy Daniels because like she's fat and
yeah.
like
Well,
now.
Stormy was entertaining. I mean, I do think she backfired for them. I think they thought that it's like, oh, this is like
100%.
it's like this is a financial case anyway. Why the hell do you have her here acting like
Yeah.
such a like it's just like when when she testified they didn't use protection, I'm like, that's it. Take him away, lock him up. Lock him up. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous. It was a mockery. So, but yeah, enough about that. It's literally not even worth talking about because it's so ridiculous.
Well, I have to say, I would have liked to have seen Michael Cohen testify today. I would have loved that too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything crazy came out of that from what I've seen, but no, I did not
No.
live tweet that. I was very involved in the Karen Reed trial out of Massachusetts, but I will get back to Trump, shortly.
So let me ask you, by watching all of these stories, these true crime things and investigating all these, do you think you can tell when someone's lying now?
Yeah, I mean, there's some really interesting tells with lies and deception. So I think, there's a lot in terms of 911 calls. So this week on my podcast, The Outlier, I talked about the death of Gary Coleman, the actor from
Wanted to go there. Yes.
Different Strokes. He actually died 14 years ago at the end of this month. And Gary,
Wow.
yeah,
14
isn't
years
that
ago.
crazy? It's crazy. He was only 42 years old.
Yeah.
And the 911 call that his common law wife made, it's actually used as an example of deception. So, and it's crazy. She has not been charged with anything in connection to his death. I want to put that out there. But if you listen to the 911 call, it's not normal from the way that she states things like, well, I I don't know if he's going to be alive when you get here. Well, when your loved one is, and let me just back up. What happened was he allegedly took a fall. He hit his head and he had blood all over his head. And the 911 operator is telling her, can you go put pressure on the wound? And she says, no, I can't be near blood. I'll seize. It's all about her. And that's very obvious, but it's the way, they said, is he moving? She goes, well, you better hurry. I don't know if he's going to be alive when you guys get here. Well, when your loved one is in a position like that, you don't accept the fact that they could die. You will do anything to save them. You will
Right.
absolutely, so the things that she is saying about this, they don't make any sense. And the other fact that she keeps saying, I just walked in and I just saw this. Well, you're trying to set the tone. You're trying to set a timeline because, when someone says, I did, it's kind of like, you're making excuses. So you're like, I had nothing to do with it. I just walked in. You're over explaining. If you're polite, that's another huge red flag on a 911 call. I mean, if
Wow.
you're in an
Okay.
emergency, you're not going to be like, can you please hurry? Please. You're going to be like, yeah, you're not going to do that. So it's like so many things. And then, part of it is like, if I say, Mary, did you eat the last cookie? And you say, nope. I would be like, okay, I'm less likely to believe you.
Going like this. Ah.
No, if you just say no, I'm more likely to believe you if you say, no, Lauren, I didn't eat the last cookie. You're finishing your statement, you're following through, and it's genuine. It's very easy to deny things and just say, no, I didn't, no, I didn't. No. It's just, when someone's thoughtful and they actually speak the crime or the accusation, that's always just a bit more believable, a bit more genuine. So I feel bad for my kids one day because I'm going to be,
I was going to say that your
yeah.
kids aren't going to get anything past you. When they're teenagers, you're going to be all over them. Those
I
poor
mean,
kids.
no, it's so interesting. I mean, even analyzing written statements, I had someone in the FBI analyze a written statement to police, and they were commenting on people that write B's and D's and how they don't connect them. It's called like a maniac D, and Jeffrey Dahmer wrote like that. So make sure to connect your D's.
Get
Yeah,
out.
it's
That's
crazy.
crazy. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody I know I have very odd handwriting. I know my handwriting is really weird. It's a combination of printing and cursive. Like it's just a weird
So is
combination. I don't know where
mine.
it came from. It just evolved over time. So they would probably think that I'm like
No,
a
and a lot of people don't believe in that stuff, Mary. A
alien.
lot of people think it's crap. However, it's helped solve cases before, and it's helped identify, you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
someone I work with can just listen to a 911 call and he can identify if they're being truthful or withholding information. I mean, there's a boy missing out of Tennessee right now. He's 15, he's autistic. And there's a lot of speculation in the court of public opinion that his parents are withholding information. And that's simply based on the interviews they've done and their mannerisms and their behavior and what they've stated. So it's all very interesting.
There's a story. Oh, is this the story? Oh, I've seen this. What you currently have, the what happened to Grant Solomon, corruption, what happened to Grant Solomon.
Yeah.
So I read this story, and this, for people who don't know, this guy was with his dad, right? With his dad, and he got out of his truck and his truck wound up running over him into a ditch, right?
Yeah,
And
I've
his
heard of it.
dad
I'm
calls
so surprised.
911. Tell us what
Yeah.
happened with that. Tell her.
Well, that one, so that I actually have an entire podcast dedicated
Yes.
to Grant and his death. And I'll be honest, if you do go to listen to it, that was my first investigative podcast. So it's a little rough around the edges. The first 10 or 15 episodes. So just stick with it. I just didn't, I was very perplexed by this case. And I was very perplexed in looking at the police reports and the medical reports, and dad's statement and the 911 call. And again, it's like, so what happened was Grant and his father pulled in separately to this place called WPI. It no longer exists. It was a baseball clinic where they train teens in baseball, and Grant was a pitcher. And his dad says, Grant parked his car. They're side by side. And he watches Grant get out, I guess, walk to the back of his truck. And he says that he just looked down to check a work email. And the next thing he knows, the truck is gone. It rolled backwards into the ditch, or it just is in the ditch, and Grant's gone too. And he gets out and he sees that Grant is trapped underneath the truck. He's not pinned under the truck, but he's trapped. And then he calls 911. And it's perplexing for a number of reasons, because Grant's body had no injuries except for his official cause of death was blunt force trauma to the back of the head, and he had like a laceration. He had a scrape on his cheek, and then he had like a scrape on his hip, which his mom thought was from sliding into home base like a week before. And it's crazy. So Aaron, this ditch is 60 feet away from the top of the parking lot, and his dad is at the top of the ditch on the 911 call, yelling down to his son. He doesn't go down there to, I mean, whatever. So he doesn't go down there to check on his son. He doesn't go. I mean, I'm a mother. I would probably try to lift that car,
Right.
like with my And so, he's kind of yelling down to him, and it's very bizarre. He's another one that says the please hurry, please. It's weird. So,
So
he gets rushed to the hospital, and before mom can get there, because it's about an hour away from where they live, dad says no autopsy, none. And for whatever reason, the medical examiner and the on-call doctors are okay with this, even though the cause of death states run over by vehicle. But he's maybe had some bleeding from the nose and the mouth and the ears. Nothing would indicate, no broken bones, no burn marks, no drag marks. His shoes and socks were fairly clean. His clothes were fairly clean. And I think a big part of this is that the police on the scene spent 57 minutes at this scene. And they just took Aaron Solomon's statement. They didn't take anyone else's statement. They didn't try to take anyone else's statement at all. There were witnesses there. I believe there was 3 witnesses there, three men that were helping Grant that happened to be driving by. And the employees came out. They didn't take statements, or the police didn't take their statements. And again, 57 minutes. And even if this was just a freak accident, or is a freak accident, you still need to investigate it because there's a
sure.
fatality, right? And they didn't, there's no chain of evidence logged. It's a bizarre mess. And Grant's glasses, his hat, and his phone were actually found in the ditch a few days later by someone that knew Grant's dad, and then returned Grant's stuff to his father. So, the truck has very minimal bumper damage. There was a forensic done on the truck that stated that it didn't malfunction. So if it was parked, the black box would have shown, or the parking call even, it would have shown that something happened, that it malfunctioned, and it didn't. So it's really weird, really, really weird. So no tire, it's crazy. And all of this, by the way, there's a shadow over this family, over their family dynamic, which, investigators should have dug further based on the family dynamic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't, and here we are. So,
Well, I think first of all, the mother would have wanted an autopsy done, or the mother would have wanted to find out a little bit more about how her son died, because
she does. She
for this
still does.
you said it was like 60 feet away from where
Yeah.
it started. So and unless it was down a hill, it didn't just roll backwards.
Well, no, it was. It was on an incline, but
Okay.
yeah, and I firmly believe, like, you can't make an assumption on something that happened at a crime scene unless you visit it, unless you see it. And that is when I was truly convinced. I was like, visited the crime scene, and I was like, there is no way that you can get out of a truck when it's in park and it's going to wait to roll. If you don't have it in park, or let's say it's in neutral, that incline, and unfortunately I was still green. I did not have my tape measure to measure exactly what it was. There's no way that it would have waited for you. So it's the fact that the police statement and his written statement states that he parked, he saw Grant get out, walk around, look down, and then it was gone. It doesn't make any sense.
No, and if the truck did roll over him, it would have dragged him. So there would have been drag marks either on the front of his body or the back of his body. And that could explain the blunt force trauma to the back of the head. Maybe he hit a rock. If it was dragging him and he was on his back, he could have hit a rock or something. That would
the ditch was full of rocks, drainage rocks. So
yeah. But there would have been this huge long scrape mark, like all of his clothes would have been covered, with grass and this and everything
and Mary,
else.
regardless, if a truck is on top of you in any type of way, a truck lands on you, whether you're dragged, whatever. I just feel like you'd have broken bones. And how much is the truck?
Yeah.
What is it? 3,000 pounds? He's not
Yeah.
being
That's a good point.
pinned. And listen, I saw the truck myself. His mom still has it. I guess there's enough space that he could fit underneath it perhaps, but it's just, there's not enough damage done to it that I would see. But I'm not a police officer, but I have gut feelings
So
based
let
on
me ask,
evidence.
how do you decide which crimes you're gonna like travel to go check out yourself, or this is the crime I want to investigate this one? How do you make that decision?
Well, this one is different for me. I mean, like I said, this was my first ever investigation, and I decided to make an entire podcast dedicated to it. That one, I kind of felt like God was calling me to that one based on the fact that I got this change.org petition. And I sometimes they go to my junk. This one happened to go to my inbox. And I read the story and I didn't believe it. I said, there's no way that the police would do this to this mother and people would accept this. I wouldn't expect to accept anything like that if it happened to my child. And also the fact that dad wasn't asking questions. It was kind of just like, don't you want to know? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So with that, it really felt like a calling for me. And I'm very close to Grant's mom and his sister. And, I was able to use some of the tools and the resources in working on that when I launched The Outlier. And for The Outlier, I hired a researcher and a writer to help me as well, because there's too many cases to cover, right? And when I'm covering cases on The Outlier, I do try to cover certain cases that some people aren't touching, but mainly cases that are either unsolved or are perplexing, suspicious, in hopes that somebody could possibly pay attention. Because how often do you hear about, a federal investigation being opened years later when the state investigation failed?
Yeah, it's so fascinating, and I can see how you can get sucked into these things. I love a good mystery.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I always was into mysteries and puzzles and all that type of thing, and I love, saying, "Huh, this isn't right. This doesn't sound right to me." Like what was I? Some of Michael Cohen's testimony, yeah, yesterday. I was
Yeah.
talking about on the air this morning. I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like that kind of stuff. I absolutely love. Let's get to some of the comments when we were talking about comedy making
Yeah.
a comeback. Paul says Jerry Seinfeld spoke at Duke graduation and talked about how it's okay to offend people through comedy. Sal, glad that comedy is making a comeback despite the efforts of the PC possessed. Cancel culture was developed in that Wuhan lab that gave us COVID-19. He also says, in my opinion, Lauren does excellent work as an investigative reporter. Yes, she
Thank you,
does.
Sal.
Gregory, my wife is continually watching the ID channel and
Yep.
other such programming. It's right up her alley because she used to read the true crime magazine. See, this has been
Mhm.
around forever.
Yeah.
Um, so the case that John was telling us about, the Mon Files case in Green Bay, it happened in the 90s. He said 6 guys sentenced to life in prison for a
Wow.
suicide.
Oh my gosh.
I went to high school with with the victim and have met all the guys wrongly accused and sentenced for up to 28 years.
No way. I want John to come on right now and tell us about it.
I
Like,
know,
what?
I know. I can't do
Insane.
that. This is the best we got.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Well, if you ever look
Wow.
it up, it's the Mon, what is it?
I'm gonna
Mon
write that
Files.
down. That's so insane. Hmm.
MO Mon Files in Green Bay.
Wait, John, are there any documentaries about it or a date? I'm sure there's got to be a dateline about it, or 2020.
I don't know.
There has to be.
It's MONFILES in Green
Got it.
Bay. Okay. He also said the Phil Hartman murder was weird too.
Well, that was definitely his wife. I mean, that she was mentally ill. She murdered him and then murdered or died by suicide. So
Yeah. Let's see. I listened to that podcast. Gary Coleman's wife sounds fishy to
mhm.
me. I think Gary Coleman's wife is trying to establish an alibi timeline with a sundial.
Yeah, agreed, Sal. Super
um,
weird.
he he said Grant podcast was a fascinating piece of investigative work, Lauren. For me, it demonstrated the failures or nonchalant police work. I wonder if the Grant case that we were just talking about, it happened in Tennessee. I wonder if like everybody knew everybody, so it was
Yeah,
kind of one of those deals.
it's interesting because it was a different county than where Grant lived. It was Sumner County, and it's interesting. Shouldn't say interesting because it's tragic. But Sumner County is where the autistic boy disappeared from. When I spoke about his parents being judged by the court of public opinion, Tennessee is, I feel like they're grasping right now. If you don't pay attention to a lot of this stuff, you might not realize a lot of what's going on. And I want to just preface that I am pro police. I really am. I love the NYPD. But in some of these situations, it's weird. Like Gallatin absolutely botched this investigation. Then you have Riley Strain, the college kid that was seen leaving Luke Bryan's bar. He wound up in the Cumberland River.
Yes,
And
yeah,
yeah, police they quickly ruled his death an accidental drowning, and his parents were like, well, something's off because his he was seen fully clothed. And look, if
right.
you fall into a river, it's absolutely possible your clothes can be torn off based on the current. But what was strange was that like his belt was missing, but his shoes weren't. It was very weird. So what they did was they hired someone to do a second autopsy, and they found no water was found in his lungs. And police were like, dry drowning, which is really rare. So I feel like a lot of these cases are happening in Tennessee, in this area, the Metro Nashville area, and they're like trying to do damage control. I also saw this bill that Senator Jack Johnson was trying to push through about closing all non-criminal death records. So journalists and whoever family members would have no access to them whatsoever if police ruled them non-criminal. And look, I vote Republican in New York. I am a registered independent, but in Tennessee, I wouldn't trust any of those guys as far as I can throw them. So
Let me ask you: is that a Tennessee law that's been proposed?
it's a Tennessee law. It was
Tennessee law.
proposed in 2022, and they blamed it on Winona Judd. And I'm like, look, it's so tragic what happened. She died by suicide. And I understand the media was trying to get in there, but she's a public figure. That's different. They all do that. It's everybody is so disrespectful when it comes to the deaths of public figures, right? You
Right.
can't do that. It's very easy for police to pull records, and they can pull it for you. They have 20 days to do it. It's not like people demand them right now. And the only reason families want them is because they want peace, or they something like Grant where things don't add up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't love what's going on there. Like I don't know.
Well,
I mean, I do know, but
I'm interviewing Marsha Blackburn tomorrow, so maybe I'll ask her.
no, she refuses. She said, I called her office. Of course I did. I thought because she talks a big game about helping kids at the border, and I'm like, do you want to help kids in your own state? No, Gloria Johnson should do that. It's her jurisdiction. Apparently, that's what one of her spokespeople told me. So
Interesting.
yeah, Marsha also went to church, I believe, at the Nashville Presbyterian. That was the church with Scott Sauls, the pastor that he got removed for just bad conduct. So, and I think her husband is actually a deacon there. So I just feel like in the South, and like I said, I consider myself to be a seeker, a follower. I feel icky when I think of a lot of the churches and a lot of the people down there. I'm going to be perfectly honest.
Okay. Yeah. No, listen, you investigate this stuff, but we don't. So, and you know how to trust your gut too. I think that there's probably a lot of the old boy stuff network going on in a lot of places. And
Uh-huh.
also, Tennessee is dealing with an influx of New Yorkers, New Jerseyans, right?
Yeah.
Leaving, coming into their area and disrupting the system, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but they're talking about their own though,
Yeah.
grants, et cetera. They're their own. So it's kind of very interesting. BR is new, says
Hmm.
hello. Scott says the incident says it often happens with farm tractors and results in death.
That's interesting. I mean, that I could see that with a tractor, absolutely. absolutely. You can't control a tractor half the time, I feel like.
Scott Joseph said, "Well, do you remember who was the celebrity, the guy who got run over by his snowplow? Remember?
Yeah, Jeremy Renner. He was in
Yes,
rough shape.
right. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
happened to him. He got run over by his snowplow."
yeah.
Joseph said, "A lot of variables in the injuries from a truck. A very real possibility injuries could be minimal based on the angle, etc. Body can be contorted. Big long shot, but it could happen." Paul, I recall the Monfiles case trial in 1996. I never knew the situation. I thought a group of paper factory workers were
My
accused
God.
of throwing a man into a vat of paper pulp.
Oh,
Oh,
that's crazy.
damn.
I know what I'm doing later. I am reading
I
all of this. Like that is my plan for tonight. Oh my goodness. Holy moly.
Joseph says the Asmuth case, 1984, was a huge case here in Fox Valley. I actually called on the son Tom at school specialty. He was asked for years, denied talking about it to media, even friends still talked about it. Still talked about.
Asmuth
Never
case.
heard of that.
Okay. No, me either.
Never heard of that one. Anything around here, I don't know where you live in New York, but I live in New Jersey. If there's any kind of suspicious death, we just assume it's the mob and go about our business.
Oh, you're fine. Well, actually, I'm in Manhattan, but you know
Right?
what's
So
happening?
you
No, I see. I don't buy into that, Mary. I feel like they've changed just a bit, but
Well,
what's
they've kind of
happening?
been the Italian mob's kind of been wiped out, and now it's more like the Russian mob, the
Oh
Russian,
yeah, I don't know anything about
yeah,
that.
the
So,
yeah, it's more like the Russian mob, and so there's more of that. But
well,
I
did you hear about the treadmill? The poor boy on the
yes,
treadmill
in
in New
New
Jersey.
Jersey, this little
Yeah,
boy, they have video of that. I couldn't even watch it all. I had to stop. I couldn't watch it
it's
all. It was
the most
disgusting.
heartbreaking thing, and I think the biggest thing for me was that sweet boy was trying so hard. He was trying so hard to please his dad, and that's awful. That guy, I feel like he must get convicted. He has to. I mean,
Oh,
that was
there's
horrible.
video.
Well,
There's
yes,
video.
but he died. He actually died days later. He didn't. He's seen walking out of the gym after that, but the injuries were so severe to his chest and to his skull that he passed away.
Yeah, for people who didn't see it, this dad put his son on the treadmill and told him he had to run because he was fat. And this kid's not fat at all. And he was what, like
Well,
6
he's
years old?
6. He was 6 years
6
old. His
years
name
old.
was
Yeah.
Corey Michiolo. He's 6 years old, and at one point, his dad has the incline up. This poor kid is running. He's falling over and over. The dad picks him up and throws him. He falls again, and at one point, this animal bites his kid on the skull and then
I
throws him
couldn't
back
even.
on. Yeah, and then turns it up. It's horrific to watch. And the worst part about this is that the boy's mother, is suing the state of New Jersey and the Department of Children's Services because guess what? She found out about what he did on the treadmill and filed an emergency protective order to get sole custody. The day before Corey died, she was denied. So
Well, he died the next day, right?
no, so this happened on March 21st. I covered this case. March 21st was a treadmill incident. Maybe 2 days later, she notices that he is very bruised, very, very bruised. She takes him to her caseworker because they're separated. She's been reporting this abuse for years. This is the problem. So either they thought she was crying abuse because Corey was very nervous to tell them about this. And the caseworker even said, we had to really get it out of him. And when he admitted the treadmill situation, he said, please don't tell my dad, da 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 da. And then
Ugh.
she filed this emergency order after, reporting this abuse. They deny it. I'll be honest, she was an ex-drug addict who had been clean, but was a single mom, but had been clean for a long time. And then the boy was at his dad's. The next day, she had to give him back to his dad. He woke up from a nap. He was slurring. He couldn't walk. So his dad took him to the hospital where he was getting a CAT scan and seizured. And then he was pronounced dead. And what did this dad do? What is an admission of guilt to you? He fled. He fled the state. He literally drove off. And I believe he drove to Tennessee or something like that, speaking of. So, yeah.
Why didn't the caseworker file the report? Wouldn't it have been so much more powerful if right then and there the caseworker filed the
Well,
report as opposed to
they
the
do.
mother?
They do
Oh,
it
they
they
do.
do it
Okay.
together. Yeah, but I think I mean, I spoke to a former homicide prosecutor about this, and I just said, "What would be the reason she's been reporting these injuries?" I mean, at one point, the dad kicked a football directly into this poor sweet boy's face, like from inches away. He was messed up for a long time. This is in an affidavit. And he said, well, it could be the case that the former drug addict thing that was going on with her and the fact that
Mm,
they thought that she would consistently and continue to report it when maybe they couldn't investigate every single claim. And then maybe everything appeared to be fine. I'm not sure, but I think we'll find out soon enough because
no,
it's
that's
terrible,
it's
terrible.
so sad. I could, like I said, I could not watch that whole video. I
I
had to
know.
punch out.
I really couldn't either.
Okay, Gregory wants to know if you've ever conducted an investigation to a point where you became afraid for your personal safety.
Yes, literally. This whole case in Tennessee has made me terrified because as you can see, I don't hold back, I guess. And I when I went to visit last year, I was going alone and I had like a freak out 2 days before, and I ended up making my husband come with me, called my parents in to come watch the kids. Thank goodness they could do it. And my poor husband sat in the hotel room the whole time. But yeah, I've been absolutely nervous. Absolutely. And it's funny, you think trolls only come out for politics. Oh no, they come out for crime. I mean, they're
Oh
not
yeah.
dangerous trolls, but they are vicious and they are mean and they are nasty. Yeah.
I don't understand why it would be that way from because you're doing something good, so it doesn't make any sense. But
Well,
people
if
are
you
nuts.
think someone's guilty and they think they're innocent, holy moly,
Oh,
watch out. You are a dumb XYZ moron, whatever. Yeah. I mean,
people
it's
are so lovely, aren't they?
they're so
Great.
nice. I
So
agree.
nice. Star Drivers here. Good evening, Your Majesty. When you have Marsha Blackburn on tomorrow, ask her about crooked Biden loving election commissioner Chris Jackson. How can Tennesseans get a fair election? I'll try to remember. I don't know if I'll remember, but I'll try. Okay, Joseph said crib notes for you. The Asmith was a wealthy pillar of the community. Wife was found murdered. It was never solved.
Oh,
Husband
wow.
claimed innocence till his death, never indicted or convicted.
I'm gonna write that down, look into that one too. No, I'm not
we'll have
kidding. I really
we'll have you come back in a couple of months and we could just reload up your
I know, right? I'll tell you exactly what I found.
more from the Mon files. The police erroneously provided the tape of it the suspect. He was scared and next found days later at the bottom of a vat.
Oh,
Police needed to find a scapegoat, otherwise the town would blame them, so they fabricated tons of evidence.
see, this is what I mean. This is what terrifies me. I'm not I'm a healthy skeptic. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but
But
like hearing this, it's like people are like, "Oh, you're crazy. It's not a 50-person conspiracy." Dude, all you need is 3 people and then dummies and then you've got, a cover up. So, there you go.
yeah, there you go. Sal says sometimes police make immediate determinations on crime because they're ordered to do so to keep crime stats down. New York City Mayor Adams insists the crime is down, yet look what's really going on. That's very true.
That is such a good point. That is literally such a good point. Absolutely.
Yep.
And also like police don't want to sit there and investigate a homicide if it's an easy suicide, It's like why would
Right.
they want to sit there and yeah.
He voluntarily jumped into the vat to kill himself.
Right, exactly. That sounds like a great death.
He also said, John says, with that Mon file case, the lead prosecutor is now the DA, said circumstantial evidence is often more damning than actual facts.
I mean, it circumstantial evidence got Scott Peterson 100% convicted, and a lot
Yes.
of the time, I was just on Nancy Grace the other day, and she had stated a lot of the time circumstantial evidence is just as powerful because if that's all you got and it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, chances are it's a duck.
Yeah. One last question here because we're almost up on time here, and I still have to ask you about the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Hermit Sal says, Lauren, have you ever been called to testify in court based upon investigations?
No, I mean, I've only been doing this a year, so these investigations and stuff. So not yet. And it would be great to get Grant's case in front of a grand jury, but not yet.
And it's Monfils case, not Monfile. It says
Oh,
here.
okay, got it.
Joseph
Montville.
said, remember in Monfils case, this is a different person. You're talking about a very small town with minimal resources. So, of course, there will be whispers of police meddling.
Yeah.
Up.
So interesting.
Suspects get convicted based on circumstantial all day, every day. Okay. So,
Yeah.
is Scott Peterson getting another trial? Isn't he getting another trial?
No, basically he's trying to appeal, and it's not like the famed Innocence Project. It's a separate a smaller entity, but they want DNA testing done. That it's a piece of fabric from a van that was found I think it was like a mile away from the home. They want that tested. It's so stupid. It's like I am so irritated by this, that they're wasting resources on that. But yeah, they just want some new testing done. I mean, don't even get me started on Scott Peterson. He's so effing guilty. It's not even funny. Like,
see, this drives you crazy, and that's how I feel about Teresa Giudice. So there you go. See, we each have our thing.
she's actually she's really nice. She's
Yeah,
actually a super nice human. I promise you that.
yeah.
I
think
know
on
her.
the surface, on the surface.
I do know her personally, but yeah.
Star Driver One says, "Here's a hint: don't investigate the Clintons."
I know better than to investigate Slick Willie and Killary. Okay, I am smarter than that. However, I will say this: I think it would be so amazing to get my hands on the Michelle Obama 911 call when her chef drowned. I'm putting that in quotes because I still don't believe that her chef was a skilled swimmer and drowned in 8 feet of water when he was like kayaking. I want to hear that
paddleboarding.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to hear that call so bad. Release the call.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott wants to know where you are on Twitter, etc. So on Twitter, it's Go ahead, tell everybody.
Conlin_Lauren on Twitter.
So CONLIN and then the line, the underscore, and then Lauren, LAUREN.
Yes, and I'll follow you back,
X.
Scott.
Yeah, and you can also follow her on popcrime.tv online. So popcrime is all one word, .tv. Don't go to .com. It doesn't work.
Yes.
I made that mistake when I was rapidly typing it in before we came on the show. But it's popcrime.tv. Let's see. The chef found Captain Winky. I don't get it.
What?
I don't
understand
get
that
either. Joseph says, if the defendant was me, I would use every resource, every loophole, every piece of evidence to try. No fan of Scott Peterson. Don't agree, but I do understand.
Yes, I totally get what he's saying, right? This guy's been rotting in a cell for how long? But he did it. Yeah.
And John says with the Monfils trial, they were all tried together to save money and time. So lastly, Dolores Catania, I saw that you interviewed her. I just want to know, did you ask her who her plastic surgeon is? Because I got to know, because every season the Real Housewives come back and they all look, they've all been tuned and lubed and brushed up and everything else. Oh, we lost your picture there. You're back.
Sorry.
You're frozen. You're frozen.
Yeah, I'm going to try to refresh this. I'm totally frozen. I don't know.
Okay. No worries.
What happened.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, it's time to go anyway, but hopefully she'll be back. But yeah, so I wanted to find out, and I know it drives Pete crazy, and Pete, if he's watching, is going to leave because I have a question about the Real Housewives, because it's the season. We're in, this is the second episode of this. I think it's the season 14 of the Real Housewives of New Jersey. I like the originals. I don't like the new ones. The Real Housewives of Potomac, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I don't like the imitators. I don't like that. So I'm an OG kind of gal. I don't think we're going to get her back. I'm so bummed. I wanted to find out about Hillary Clinton, about Teresa Giudice and Dolores Catania. I don't think we're going to get her back. All right. Well, you can find her, as I said, on popcrime.tv and on X at Conlin, CONLIN_Lauren. You can find her there. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I really appreciate you. Thank you. And Please like the channel. Please subscribe if you have not done so yet. And don't forget, this week I'm on from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern Time. I'm in for David Webb on Sirius XM Patriot Channel. Thursday, I will be on 3 to 7 p.m. In addition, 3 to 7 p.m. in for Rich Zioli on PHT. And tomorrow I'll be on N2, which is the Newsmax 2 channel, at 5:15 with Todd Starnes. And then I'm going to do nothing but sleep this weekend. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me. You guys are great questions, everything. You really are fantastic. Thank you so much.